just over a week ago, this 20 is plenty speed limit came into operation, and now one of Wales's biggest bus operators say that 20 miles per hour limit is causing challenging operational conditions that will force it to review routes and review timetables.
Well, the Welsh Government's imposed this ban, or the speed limit, I should say, for most roads in Wales, which has triggered a huge backlash. Even Mark Drayford saying that he's experienced death threats since bringing it in. And it's also led to a huge petition calling for the limit to be scrapped, with over 400,000 signatures.
Well, let's go to Jack Carson, who's turned up a bit late this morning because he could only go maximum 20 miles an hour to get to his destination. So tell me, Jack, you're in Mold, OK? So
Wales, is it?
What are things looking like from there?
Well, certainly, Amy, you do certainly notice, coming from England, especially this morning, when you do start to drive through Wales, drive through those rural areas, those villages that, of course, up until 11 days ago were 30 miles an hour, you do notice that dramatic drop to 20 mile an hour when you are driving down those roads. And, of course, as you mentioned, it has had big backlash across the country. We're in Mold here this morning in North Wales. We're at a bus station because of Riva Wales are, of course, now having to look at rescheduling their possible departure times and arrival times for their buses across the country because, of course, this reduced speed limit. We're joined here with Sam Rowland, who's the member of the Senedd for North Wales. Sam, this 400,000 people petition that have signed that, what do you think that says about the feeling across this country with this new speed limit?
Well, I think it shows a real frustration in the way that's been rolled out, first of all, and the measure itself. And what's really interesting about that 400,000 mark, now nearly 450,000 actually, is that that's now more people have signed that petition here in Wales than people who voted for Labour at the last Senedd elections. So there's a real strength of feeling, a frustration in the government, and they feel like they're not being listened to.
I mean, Lee Waters, who's the Deputy Climate Change Minister for this Welsh Government, he survived a no-confidence vote that you'd put in against him last night. But he's only following the Labour manifesto, isn't he? He's only kind of doing what Labour promised they would do if they were elected again.
Yeah, and that's the line that Labour Party here in Wales like to use. But let's not forget, in the manifesto, it's just 9 words that reference the 20 miles per hour blanket speed limit here in Wales. So within a deep manifesto, 9 words. I'm not sure that's quite where most people were looking when they're looking to vote in a government here in Wales. I would expect any decent government to put the effort in, to engage and to see what the feeling is amongst people, rather than just hanging everything on 9 words within a manifesto.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what you were proposing, I mean, if you were in power, would you just scrap the 20 mile an hour limit completely? Because there is some support for it in some areas, particularly around maybe areas where there are lots of pedestrians, smaller, kind of close together high streets and schools particularly. So if you were in power, what would the Welsh Tories do? Yeah,
we've said all along it makes complete sense to have 20 miles per hour in those places where the risk demands that. So outside those schools, perhaps outside hospitals, those busy high streets, it absolutely makes sense to have 20 miles per hour in those areas, not as a blanket speed limit across Wales. We've already said that we, if elected into power at the next elections in 2026, we would reverse that measure of 20 miles per hour, and everyone will be 30 again, unless those places that need it is 20 miles per hour.
I mean, we're here at this bus station this morning. Of course, we know that Riva Wales are having to look at rescheduling their timetables. Is that a worry, do you think, across the country that people, delivery companies, bus services are having to reschedule because of this 20 mile an hour limit? Is that an impact across the country that you're seeing?
Yeah, it's a real world impact that we were warning the government about well before they brought this into place. Bus companies, as you say, having to change their schedules, care workers having to change their schedules, and what Welsh Government numbers actually show, it will cost the economy £4.5 billion having this in place. It's having a real world impact on businesses up and down Wales at the moment. It's not good enough.
But the Welsh Government would say that 20 is plenty, and that actually, if you are saving lives because of how many accidents happen under 30, particularly in Wales, that if you're saving lives, is it not just a price to pay to go a little bit slower to know that you're possibly saving a life?
I mean, we balance risks every single day in everything that we do. More lives are actually lost on much faster roads than on 30 miles per hour roads. All lives being lost is a sad situation, absolutely. The argument, I guess, is 20 miles per hour. There will still be serious injuries at 20 miles per hour. There will still be serious accidents at that speed. So why not be 10 miles per hour? Why not be 5 miles per hour? We choose the speed limits based on the risk and the situation that we're in. 20 is not a situation people in Wales are happy with at all.
All right, Sam, thank you very much for joining us here this morning. Of course, we did ask the Welsh Government for a statement, of course, on particularly those impacts with the buses in Wales. They said that we've been clear from the outset that we would monitor any impact of the 20 mile an hour on bus services, and they say they're working closely with bus operators and local authorities and Transport for Wales to tackle the challenges that the industry is facing.
Thanks, Jack. Thank you. Appreciate that.
And we should say that Arriva, in their full statement, say we're undertaking a large-scale review of the network, which will require a combination of additional resource changes to frequencies and changes to routes to improve punctuality so we can better serve our customers.